Hello, writers. Okay, so I am still in the same clothes as the last two videos. I'm hiding away in my bedroom from my children so I can get some schoolwork done and record these lessons for you so that you can have them at home. And if you're sick or if you're absent, you can always come back and catch up on what we're doing. Today, we're doing session 6. We're talking about how journalists delve deeply to reveal underlying issues. This is my favorite part of investigative journalism, where we bring to light a social issue. A lot of you guys, when you did your newscast on the comments in Google Classroom, I said you need to wrap up with an underlying social issue that this story brought to light, and you need to, just kind of throw out possible solutions, things like that. Like, this is the whole point of investigative journalism, is that people want to bring to light a social issue that the public may not be aware of, or they may be aware of, but they need to think more about. So, we're going to get started with that. Today, I want to teach you that while journalists do notice stories every day, the best journalists do more than that. They investigate issues that matter in their community. They find the stories that reveal those issues, and then they craft news stories to illuminate those underlying issues. A great Pulitzer Prize winner, Donald Murray, once said that most of us write again and again about the same two or three issues. That's because investigative journalists, especially, have a few topics that really weigh on their hearts, stuff that they want to talk about. I know that when you guys did your newscast, I found that teenagers, tend to lean towards the same topics that really affect you guys personally. So that's great. We want to continue looking for those stories, and let's dig into this deeper. Okay, so we know that writers are going to write about issues that they care about, but what you also want to do is write about issues that are relevant to the people around you, to the community, to your audience. So let's say I was thinking of two topics, the first one being pressures in education, and the second one would be pressures that teenagers face. I'd have to think, who is this important to? Who is this story going to matter to anybody? So let's talk about the pressures in education. That would probably matter to just people in education, teachers, administrators, things like that. Pressures that teenagers face, that would matter to kids, to parents, to administrators, to teachers, to a way wider variety of people, a bigger audience, if you will. So um, we want to find a social issue that has a big audience that's gonna interest people. Um, the next thing we can do is to gather the issue. We kind of want to say it in different ways to kind of cast a net. So I could say, well, issues that teenagers face. Another way to say it could be, it's hard being a teenager. We could talk about pressures, hardships, just emotional issues, things like that. So we cast a bigger net, and that's going to kind of draw in more ideas of things that I could kind of highlight on pressures and hardships for that teenagers are facing these days. So, so that's the second thing I'm going to do. So I'm going to look for my audience. I'm going to kind of focus on an issue that's important to a wide audience. Then I'm going to kind of cast a net around it. I'm going to word it different ways and see what ideas come to mind. And then the last thing I'm going to do, the third thing I'm going to do, is seek stories that illustrate that issue. So a couple of you came up to me when you wanted to make your video newscast and say, I want to do a newscast on how we don't believe in dress code. We shouldn't have to wear belts. And I'm like, okay, that's fine, but you're going to have to find a story that illustrates a problem with teachers and administration focusing on what kids are wearing. Um, as opposed to, that there's opposite arguments that, everybody's dressed the same, so it eliminates kind of the teasing about clothes and things like that. So you have to find the opposite version of that, a story that's going to highlight why uniforms would be detrimental to kids. And so a lot of you went out and did that. Some of you said, I want to talk about bullying. So then you had to go out and find a story that kind of brought to light that social issue. Some of you talked about, I'm trying to think of what else we did that were big issues, hot button topics. Oh, some of you guys talked about the hurricane, and a lot of times when reporters were doing issues on the hurricane, or doing stories on the hurricane, you have to find a person that hurricane significantly affected and interview them and take quotes from them so that, and then it highlights this issue of how detrimental this hurricane has been to this area, to this population that's living down south that's been hit with this. So, yes, you need to do those three things. So today you are um, writing. Hopefully, you've published and you're writing a new one and a new investigative journalism paper. And you are going to make sure you're going to start off by finding um, a social issue that you want to highlight in your paper and kind of investigate that and find a story that collaborates with that. Good luck. Can't wait to see what you write.